I left the case that charges my earbuds and I realized something. Let me take you through it. So, allow me to tell you a story first. Um, I remember the first time AirPods came out. This was like 2016, like the Apple AirPods, wireless earbuds. I thought buying these things was a wild concept. Like these things were 400k compared to the wired ones that we used to use at the time that were around 10k, 20k. So I never thought I would own a pair of wireless earbuds because I thought, so stupid. Why would anyone buy them? However, my mom bought original AirPod Pros, and I tested them, and bro, the sound, oh, it was incredible. It was really, really incredible, and I felt like in that moment my world flipped upside down, and I could not go back to wired ones. So it's a long story, but from the AirPods Pros, I switched to Android phones and I started using the Pixel Buds Pro 2. Now, these things were very nice, very light, nice active noise cancellation, nice shape. I could literally wear these things like the whole day. However, all good things come to an end, and it has been a week or two. No, it has been 3 weeks now since I lost the case that charges them. So I have the buds, but I can't charge them. So basically, they are useless. So why am I telling you all this? So in these past 3 weeks, I've realized a shift in my daily routine because of these things. These buds were like an extension to my body. I was always listening to something, music, a YouTube video, podcast. My brain was always plugged in, and after this misfortune, I've started realizing that the only days I would not be listening to something were the only time I would not be listening to something was when I was sleeping, actually, which is crazy. I'm not saying I was listening to something all the time, but mainly when I was sleeping is when I didn't have these things in my ears. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? I don't know. I'm just sharing my experience. So at the beginning of last year, I started feeling this feeling. I started getting this feeling of information overload in my life. Like I was consuming a lot of podcasts, a lot of YouTube videos that I would deem educational. Like in my mind, I was like, this is good for me. I should consume more. So I started listening to podcasts and watching them at 2x speed. Can you imagine? That's crazy. You're literally listening to someone say, but my brain was like, we are picking all this information. We need to consume as much information in the shortest time period possible. And I think this was a FOMO in a way. Like FOMO, by FOMO I mean the fear of missing out. Because I kept listening to these things, I kept watching these videos with the thought that I might miss some important information if I don't consume this. You know, you can listen to a podcast of like 3 hours at 2x speed, and when you go back to check, like, what did I learn from that thing? And you only remember like 2 sentences, and they may not even be useful in your life. So I was like, what the hell, man? Because the more I consumed, the more the algorithm recommended interesting material to me. You know how YouTube works. The more you consume something, the more they suggest things that are related to what you've consumed, and you're always compelled to consume more. Now, this is what the author, Oliver Burkeman, the author of Time Management for Mortals, I don't think that's the book, the whole title of the book, but yeah, he has a book titled that. He calls this the failure to come to terms with our own mortality. We are finite beings with infinite options at our disposal, especially these days because of the internet. There's infinite information out there for us to consume. So since the earbuds were so comfortable in my ears, I could listen to something, like I could have them in my ears the whole day, like for long stretches of time. As long as the battery was on, I would have them in my ears. So I always felt compelled to listen to something, like always listening to something, like silence in my ears started feeling a bit weird. So let me tell you a story related to this. So around at the beginning of 2024, I started paying for YouTube Premium. Now, when you pay for YouTube Premium, you get YouTube Music for free. Is it for free? Because you already paid. Anyway, so I was paying for Spotify also. So I was like, why should I pay for Spotify? Yet I'm paying for YouTube Premium and I'm getting YouTube Music on top of YouTube Premium. So I decided to ditch Spotify. Now, Spotify has this feature called crossfade. Yeah, crossfade, which means that as the song is ending, this song is ending, like 12 to 8 seconds, the other song has already begun, meaning the song doesn't end, like the music doesn't end. It's just continuing, one song after the next, one song after the next, one song after the next. So my mind had gotten used to that whenever I was listening to Spotify. Now YouTube Music doesn't have this feature. So when I switched to YouTube Music, there would be a 3 to 5 second delay after the song has ended. And I remember it was starting to feel weird. Like the first few months, I used YouTube Music. Whenever a song would end, I would get out my phone. I'm like, what's happening? Kumbe, like there's a 3 to 5 second silence in between, in transition of the next song. And I was like, oh, so in a way, Spotify was training my brain to always be listening to something, and the gap between consumption and reflection was basically non-existent. So I was jumping from one form of media to the next. Now, spoiler alert, after 6 months of YouTube Music, I went back to Spotify. YouTube Music is garbage, basically garbage. And Spotify is way better in all the ways, so I went back. So the weird thing about consuming things constantly or consuming things at 2x speed, like as fast as possible to get through them, like even time around me started moving at 2x speed. Like you can be listening to something, to like a podcast, then you jump to a YouTube video, then you jump to Spotify. Maybe after there you're tired, you jump to Instagram or TikTok, and basically you come to realization that wait, 4 hours have passed, and you're like, I've been sitting here for like 1 hour, and yet 4 hours have passed. So 24 hours can start feeling like 12 hours. So I've been forced to go back to normal. I've embraced the change. Of course, I'm having withdrawal syndrome, but I'll get there. Now, I got a new pair of headphones. These ones. I got the wired ones. I had to go back to the original. So I got the new pair of headphones, but now I think I'm a bit conscious about the overconsumption of information. I'm listening to podcasts that really matter, because if you're listening to podcasts at 1x speed, you realize you can't listen to like more than five podcast episodes. When you have series to watch, which is another form of information, consumption, but is it better than listening to educational videos and podcasts? I don't know, man. Sometimes you have to relax. Going far in all directions is bad. So one thing I've learned from this whole situation is we should all be careful at what we give our attention to, because it is one of the most precious resources, if not the most precious resources we have. These days it feels like time is moving on so fast, but maybe it's because we are constantly, mindlessly giving it away without a pause to reflect and ask ourselves whether we are benefiting from what we are consuming. So in the same way, you should not eat everything because you may become obese. I think we should treat information that goes into our eyes or brain the same way. It can be junk, it can be nutritious to you. So think about that. With that, peace.